Hello everyone, welcome to class 2. Relatives of the deceased should sincerely uphold the precepts and partake in the memorial services. The most important thing is that the family members themselves must have pure and sincere intentions, participate in vegetarian observance, and have faith in the Triple Gem. Only then will such practices be effective. Some people, when their parents or grandparents passed away, also invite monastics to recite sutras. Yet they act as if it has nothing to do with them, while the monastics chant, the family members act as if they are at a party, such as entertaining guests, drinking, playing cards, and making a lot of loud noises. In such memorial services, the sponsoring patrons have no respect whatsoever for the monastics, treating them like hired laborers. Although they spend money, all they get is a lively spectacle. This is of no use at all to the deceased. When relying on the Triple Gem to help the deceased, what is the most essential is that the family members themselves hold sincere intention with regards to relying to invite monastics to lead the sutra recitation and the repentance rituals. It must not be approached with the attitude of, I pay you money, you recite sutras for me. One must be earnest and sincere, joining in the prostration and repentance practices. Only then can one truly rely on the power of Triple Gem to help the deceased. With pure sincerity, this enables those who would otherwise fall into the evil realms to instead attain rebirth along humans or devas. Many people recite the sutra on the fundamental vow of itigarbha Bodhisattva as part of their regular practice with the intention of helping the dying and the deceased. These are points that everyone should understand and pay attention to. Merits making for the deceased must be done within 49 days after death. Why is this so? The Sutra on the Fundamental Vows of the Ksitigarbha Versicle 3 states, within the 49 days, in every passing moment, the deceased hopes that the family members will create merits to rescue them. After this period, they will move on to the next life according to their own karma. The text says within 49 days, but in fact, rebirth does not necessarily take the full 49 days. Some take rebirth within the first 7 days, others within the 14 or 21 days. 49 days is simply the maximum. Therefore, it is said that throughout this 49 days period, the deceased hopes in every passing moment that the family will invoke the protection of the Triple Gem and extensively cultivate merits on their behalf. By doing so, even one standing on the very brink of the evil realms may find an opportunity to transform their destiny. At this time, the deceased exists in the intermediate state where they are powerless and lack autonomy. Therefore, their only hope is that the family will rescue them and transfer merits on their behalf. In the 49 days pass, so if the 49 days pass and no one has come to their rescue, they have no choice but to follow their karma and endure the suffering in one of the 3 evil realms. It is like being on a train that has arrived at the terminal. One has no choice but to disembark. This is why, after a person dies, assistance should be provided within the 49 days. It is also like a person who breaks the law. They may hire a lawyer to mount a defense, but once the final verdict has been handed down, nothing more can be done to alter the outcome. Both are accounts concerning the Ksitigarbha's Bodhisattva's past lives. In a past life, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was the daughter of a Brahmin. Her mother did not believe in the Triple Gem and acts on wrong views. After the mother died, she fell into a hell and suffered there. The Brahmin's daughter knew that because her mother had not believed in the Triple Gem and had acted on wrong views while alive, she would certainly fall into a hell. Therefore, she performed acts of dana and cultivated merits on her mother's behalf. And whenever she encountered Buddha's images, she would prostrate to them with reverence. She wept and wailed in grief, for the Buddha of that time had long since entered parinirvana. If only the Buddha were still dwelling in the world, she would ask him where exactly her mother had been reborn. Her heart was filled with the most extreme anguish. At that moment, what seems like a voice spoke to the Brahman's daughter, telling her not to grieve. The voice said, if she single-mindedly recites the name of that Buddha who had entered parinirvana, the realization flower meditation at East King Tathagata, she would learn her mother's whereabouts. The Brahman's daughter then, with utmost sincerity and reverence, stilled all discursive thoughts and single-mindedly recite the Buddha's name. Before long, in a state of samadhi, she arrived at the edge of the hells and asked the warrens where her mother was. The warrens told her that her deceased mother had been departed from the hell realm and been reborn in a heaven. Owing to her daughter's filial devotion in carrying out dana and virtuous deeds and reciting the Buddha's name on her mother's behalf. On accounts to these merits, she was released from the hell realm. And from this record, we learn that when the power of sincere filial devotion combines with the strength of merits of reciting a Buddha's name, an effective, strong response arises. Even sinners who have already fallen into the hells can be rescued. Bright Eyes was also a filial daughter who was another incarnation of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in a past life. Her mother had been fond of eating fish raw, thereby committing extremely grave transgression of killing during her lifetime. Bright Eyes knew that after death, her mother would certainly fall into the evil realms, and therefore she asked an arahat to enter of samadhi and search for her mother. Only then did she learn that her mother had indeed been reborn in a hell. Afterwards, Bright Eyes likewise single-mindedly recited the Buddha's name and reverently made offerings. Through the power of her sincere filial devotion, she rescued her mother from the sufferings of the hell realm. From these two accounts, we learn that even for beings who have already fallen into hells, as long as their children possesses sincere filial devotion, combined with reverence and devout recitation of a Buddhist name and recollection of a Buddha, then by relying on the majestic spiritual power of the Triple Gem, they can enable their parents to be capable to capable to relieve from their suffering. As the parents and children are flesh and blood kin of the closest bond, they are certainly be capable of the most profound and thorough sincerity, and then the power is the greatest and the relief is the most easily accomplished. Although the compassionate efforts of others to rescue the deceased may also produce an effective response, but the power is not as strong. Self-cultivation in life surpasses reliance and posthumous rites. When reciting the sutras and performing repentance rites for the deceased, one should regard it as creating merits for oneself. Only then it will be effective. And the sutras on the fundamental vows of these itigarbha bodhisattvas states that the one who recites gains 6/7 of the merits, while the deceased received only 1/7. Therefore, inviting others to recite the Buddha's name and chant sutras after our death cannot compare to cultivating practice ourselves while alive. Thus, while we are healthy, we should recite the Buddha's name and recollect the Buddha more, as well as cultivating more merits. In this way, we need not fear the danger of falling into evil realms. However, if one has already died and entered the intermediate state, the only way to attain relief is to rely on the merits cultivated by the family members through the acts of offerings. If one has already fallen into evil realms, relief is of course very difficult. Only through the utmost sincerity of one's family can deliverance be attained. Through the great compassionate vow, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has revealed his Dharma practice in the evil times of the 5 turbidities, providing all beings in the evil realms with helpful means for their rescue and protection. In contemporary Chinese Buddhist circle, rites to help ancestors and deceased family members are extremely widespread. This is the hope of the Venerable Yin-Shun that while applying this practice, everyone can understand the true meaning of the Dharma practice so that the genuine merits may truly be obtained. And this year, we'll study the Universal Gate chapter of the Bodhisattva Avalokites. In the chaotic era in which we live, this is of particular significance. In the present age, many people feel as though they are on the brink of destruction. We are in urgent need of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva's great compassion to rescue us. Furthermore, only the selfless compassion of Avalokiteshvara can save humanity in the present days. The Universal Gates chapter of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara specifically addresses the great fearless spirits of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara in saving beings from suffering. Therefore, upon hearing this, we should earnestly contemplate the compassionate vows of Avalokiteshvara and strive to awaken our own compassionate vows. By uniting our vows with those of the Bodhisattva, we can ensure that the manifestations of the Avalokiteshvara are present everywhere in this world, which is heavy with suffering, and that the relief provided by the Avalokiteshvara is also found everywhere. In this way, the great catastrophe facing humanity can be prevented. When speaking of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, there is no Buddhist who does not know him. As the common saying goes in Asia, Amitabha is every household, Avalokiteshvara for every person. From this, one can understand how deeply Avalokiteshvara has penetrated the hearts of the people. In truth, faith in the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the recitation of his name, and the worship of his image are not only popular in China, but also in Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and regions of Singapore and Malaysia in which you live. This can be considered a shared faith across the entire domain in which the Mahayana Buddhism has spread. If we were to travel through these countries, we will clearly see that whether in cities or villages, on high mountains or by the seashores, there are people who enshrine the sacred image of Avalokiteshvara and recites his holy name wherever they live. The place of origin of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Where exactly does Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara originate from? It is not possible to point a specific country, province, village, or town in our world and say that it is where he comes from. According to many Mahayana scriptures, Avalokiteshvara is one of the two primary bodhisattvas who assist Amitabha Buddha in the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss, which is located beyond 100,000 kotis of Buddha's fields. This great bodhisattvas assists Amitabha Buddha in spreading the Dharma. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is currently known as the great being of the final succession. In the past, the Bodhisattva was a Buddha known as Tathagata of clear understanding of the true law. In the future, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva will succeed Amitabha Buddha, attaining Buddhahood in the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss and ruling under the name Universal Light Virtue Mountain King Buddha. For now, we can only say that he is a magnificent Bodhisattva endowed with great compassion and wisdom from the Western Pure Land. There is no need to designate a specific birthplace for him within this world. The sites where Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva carries out work of transformation can generally be divided into two types: the fundamental sites of enlightenment and the sites of manifestation. The fundamental sites of enlightenment is the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss, as Avalokiteshvara is a great bodhisattva of this pure land. All Buddhists trust these fundamental sites, and no one would entertain doubts regarding it. As for the sites of manifestation, wherever Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva provides guidance and transformation in all worlds throughout the 10 directions, there is a site where the Bodhisattva provisionally manifest. Therefore, such sites are numerous, a lot and a lot. Indeed, Avalokiteshvara's sites of manifestations are everywhere. However, the Avatamsaka Sutras tells us that Mount Bodhalaka, the place where Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvas first appeared in this world and achieved enlightenment, is located on the coast of the Great Ocean in southern India. Yet, Chinese Buddhist practitioners have never visited the site of enlightenment, and few even know of its existence. The sites of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva's enlightenment, known to the Chinese people, is Mamputor in the South China Sea off coast the Zhejiang. In the past, many people would go on pilgrimage to the Mount Putor every year to honor Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. The Mount Putor is the Southern Sea. In the Southern Sea is widely recognized by Chinese people as the enlightenment site where the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara manifested. It is renowned throughout the world, and its fame is certainly rooted in history. A brief introduction is provided below. During the Northern and Southern dynasties period in China, around the Zhenyuan era of the Liang dynasty, a Japanese monk named Hui traveled to China to seek the Dharma. He had a profound and strong faith in Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. And when he completed his studies and prepared to return to Japan, in addition to bringing back many scriptures, he made a special request to take the statues of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva back to his home country for veneration. In ancient times, transportation was not as convenient as it is today. Travel was naturally by wooden boats. However, after Hui placed the statue of Avalokiteshvara on the boats, they had not sailed far when a strong winds and rough seas suddenly appeared. The boats could not move forward no matter what they tried. In these circumstances, he had no choice but to take the statues of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva to a small island and build a simple hut to house and honor the Bodhisattva. The seafarers traveling to and from the small island, as well as those nearby residents, frequently came to burn incense and worship, experiencing many inconceivable spiritual responses. Consequently, the number of people coming to offer incense and pay their respects grew larger and larger, and the island developed day by day. Thus, its original name, Meixian Island, was changed to Mount Putor, and the mountain became a sacred site of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Ever since Mount Putor was established as the place of enlightenment for Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, many places where the Bodhisattva subsequently manifested spiritual responses have also been called sacred sites of the Avalokiteshvara. Furthermore, it can be said that wherever there is faith in Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, or wherever the Bodhisattva is enshrined and worshipped, such a place may be considered the sacred place of the Bodhisattva. Because the Bodhisattva guides and transforms sentient beings throughout the worlds of the 10 directions, it can truly be said that there is no land where the Bodhisattva does not manifest a presence. No matter the location of the type of sentient beings, whenever there is a need for the Bodhisattva's liberating guidance. The Bodhisattva always appears in whatever forms is necessary to save them. The gender of Bodhisattva's Avalokiteshvara. The origins of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and the sites of enlightenment and where he manifests have already been briefly explained. There is now another question that requires an answer. Is the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, who possesses great compassion, great wisdom, the power of great vows, and the great merits, ultimately male or female? Because the forms of the Avalokiteshvara currently visible are predominantly female. People often ask the questions. Now I shall first recount for you all a story of how Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara manifests in a female form to convert and guide sentient beings. During the Tang Dynasty in China, the Bodhisattva appeared in Jingtan in Shanyu, manifesting the feminine appearance of a woman selling fish. The fish seller was exceedingly beautiful. Every morning, carrying a fish basket, she would sell fish in a certain village, and the young men of that village, seeing her youth and lovely appearance, pursued her uneasily. Every young man hoped to win her hand and make her his own spouse. Because there are so many pursuers, the fish-selling woman was unable to accommodate them all. Consequently, she devised a plan and said to the young men of the village, "There are so many of you, yet I have but only one single female body. Naturally, I cannot fulfill the desire of every one of you. I shall now propose a condition that is not overly difficult. Whichever of you fulfills it, I shall grant myself to him in the marriage. Let no one else pursue me in vain." The young man asked impatiently, "What are the terms?" The fish-selling woman replied, "In Buddhism, there is a certain scripture called the Universal Gate chapter of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. If any of you can memorize it within 3 days, I shall marry him." Consequently, within 3 days, there are 40 or 50 men who had successfully memorized it. So the fish-selling woman spoke again. "I'm still only one single person, yet there are so many of you. How can it be divided whom I should marry? I tell you all, Buddhism has another scripture called the Diamond Sutra. Its text is somewhat longer than the Universal Gates chapter. If any of you can memorize it within 5 days, I shall marry him." Supported by the intense power of their affection, when the 5 days period expired, there were still as many as 10 persons who had memorized the Diamond Sutra. In the end, the problem remained unresolved. So the fish seller woman said once more to these men, "Buddhism has a great vehicle scripture called the Lotus Sutra. If any of you can memorize it within 7 days, I shall decidedly marry him." Consider this, everyone. The Lotus Sutra is as vast as 7 volumes and 28 chapters. To memorize it within 7 days is truly not easy. Therefore, in the end, only a young man surnamed Ma succeeded in memorizing it. To fulfill her promise, the fish-selling woman naturally wed the man named Ma. It goes without saying that the man felt immense joy in his heart, and others were likewise happy that he had obtained such a beautiful wife as lovely as flower and jade. However, on the wedding night, after the guests had departed, the woman suddenly suffered from abdominal pain and passed away. Needless to say, the one who traumatized by the grief at that moment was none other than the young man of the Ma family. Having exhausted all his skills to finally win such a beauty, it had now all come into nothing, all come to nothing. How could he not be consumed by despair? Yet, since the death cannot return to life, what use was his sorrow? There was no other choice but to follow common custom and take the deceased to be buried. Beyond this, what else could be done? While the coffin was being transported along the road, suddenly an elderly monk was encountered. The old monk said to the young man named Ma, "I heard that you just held a great wedding ceremony yesterday. How is it that you are performing funeral rites today?" With with a face such of grief, the young man replied, "This was my most beloved and beautiful woman. I used a great deal of effort before I was able to have her as my wife. I never expected that a vibrant beauty would turn into an unfeeling corpse in the blink of an eye. How could my heart not be pained?" Seeing his state of deep sorrow, the old monk gave him his teaching. "You young people only know of love and passion, yet you do not know to pursue the truth. It should be understood that the beautiful woman you married yesterday was no ordinary woman of this world, but was the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara appearing to convert and save you." Because the deeply compassionate Bodhisattva knew that the people of your village, young and old, did not know to have faith in the Triple Gem, the Bodhisattva used skillful means to manifest in a female body to guide you. If you do not believe this, you can open the coffin and have a look. In order to obtain proof, the crowd actually opened the coffin. Upon looking, they realized that the beautiful originally placed inside was no longer there. At this point, they had no choice but to believe that Bodhisattva had used divine powers to depart. However, when they turned back to look for the old monk, he too had already vanished without a trace. Based on this, it can be concluded that the fish-selling woman and the old monk were both manifestations of Avalokiteshvara. The purpose was to encourage the villagers to develop a sincere and earnest understanding of Triple Gem. And from then on, not only did the young man from the Ma family renounce the secular life and become a monk, but the villagers did too, placing their faith in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and taking refuge in the Triple Gem. In Buddhism, there is a saying about this. First, lead them with the hook of desire. Later, lead them to attain Buddha's wisdom. This is the most skillful way for a bodhisattva to save sentient beings. The reasons why the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara occasionally manifest in female form to guide and transform sentient beings can be found by investigating thoroughly. There are two main causes, which are briefly explained below. Firstly, the primary focus is to rescue sentient beings who endure excessive suffering. Human beings experience a multitude of pains, and in past eras, where men were favored over women, the afflictions of women were indeed more numerous than those of men. This was because in those times, women were subjected to make constraints, subjected to many constraints. Before marriage, while in their parental homes, they were required to obey the commands of their parents, the mothers and the father, and after marriage in their husband's household, they had to follow the orders of their husband. And in the old age, if they had children, they still had to listen to the words of their sons and daughters. In worldly life, the suffering of women was truly more pervasive. Since the purpose of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is to save beings from their misery, it is natural to first deliver women who suffered so greatly. Consequently, the Bodhisattva frequently manifests in a female body, seeking to integrate fully with them by addressing the various specific pains inherent to woman's life. The Bodhisattvas gradually guides them towards the path of practicing the Buddha Dharma, thereby relieving all their distress and allowing them to attain liberation of both body and mind. Secondly, although women are said to suffer more, the gentleness and affectionate love in their hearts surpasses that of a man. Because, for example, while worldly parents' love for their children is undoubtedly equal, a mother's protection and care for her children is even more profound and intimate. A mother's love for her children, is more compassionate than a father's. Since Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva embodies great kindness and compassion, he appears in female form. This is simply the purification and expansion of worldly maternal love into great compassion. The maternal love found in the world, though said to be truly sincere, is extremely narrow in its scope. It only knows how to love and protect one's own child, remaining ignorant of how to love the children of others. Furthermore, it contains within it defiled elements. Although it is generally said that the affection parents have for their children is unconditional, there are in fact conditions present within that supposed unconditionally. As a Chinese saying goes, store grains against famine, raise children against old age. If this is not a condition, what is it? Therefore, there are two substantial differences between the compassion possessed by bodhisattvas and the affection of parents. First, it is not extensive. Second, it is not truly unconditional. The compassion of Avalokiteshvara can purify and expand worldly maternal love. This compassion extends to all sentient beings, not just a single portion of them. Thus, a bodhisattva's compassion is truly magnificent, and worldly maternal love cannot be compared to it. Deeply aware of how rare maternal love is in the world, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva manifests a female body in various places. The hope is that in the form of woman, the Bodhisattva can transform ordinary women of the world so they do not remain exclusively trapped within a narrow maternal love, but instead use the spirit of that love to affectionately care for all sentient beings. The aspiration is that every single being may escape sufferings and attain happiness, transcend the cycle of birth and death, and achieve perfect supreme enlightenment. Okay, the time is up, and I think I will share today's lesson and finish here. Okay, thank you very much.